The Pickleball Show is brought to you by PBX Club. PBX stands for Pickleball Excellence. Join today and get the latest pickleball tips and strategies, news and opinion. Save money on paddles and other equipment with coupon codes to online pickleball retailers. Get travel discounts to tournaments and a whole lot more. How much does it cost to become a PBX Club member? Well, it's free. Just go to freepbxclub.com. That's freepbxclub.com. There's even a link in the show notes for this episode. freepbxclub.com. PBX Pickleball Excellence. Join the club. It's free.
This is Coach Mo from pickleballcoach.com. And here's the host of the Pickleball Show, Chris Allen.
Thank you, Coach Mo, and welcome to the show dedicated to helping you play better pickleball while having even more fun and meeting new friends who share your passion for this great sport. My name is Chris Allen, joining you today from Asheville, North Carolina. Let's see whose paddles are in the fence today. Joining me from Grass Valley, California, it is the one and only Prem Carnot. Prem, how are you today?
Very well. Thanks for having me on your show, Chris.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us, and going now from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast, a couple of hours north of Toronto, Canada, Collingwood, Ontario to be specific. It is owner of Third Shot Sports, Mark Renneson. Mark, how are you?
Hey, Chris, I'm great, thanks.
This is so nice. I've got two of North America's top coaches together for the first time ever.
Yeah, hi, Chris. Hi, Prem. It's nice to meet you over the phone.
Hi, Mike. It's a pleasure to get to know you.
Prem, you wrote a great blog post on pickleball etiquette that I think really distills down the nature of the game on the court, not just for beginners, but also for advanced players as well. And I know that that's been a very popular post from yours, and we will link to that in the show notes for this episode. What kind of reaction have you gotten from your etiquette post?
I would have to say absolutely very, very positive appreciation from both the communities of players, from what I would call the lower-end players or the beginners or the novices, and the higher-end players, because they really get a good understanding on grip on, like, it actually spoke to them about the experience of what they feel when they are at the courts. Sometimes, lower end players feel very torn about the fact that they really want to improve their game, and they're pretty much convinced that playing with good players will get them there, and which is definitely true, that playing with good players will take them there. And it's also the same dilemma with the good players, is like they want to improve and get better, but playing with players who are not as good as them, how to navigate, like they prefer to play with players who are stronger than them or at least equally as skilled as them, and so they are in a dilemma of not wanting to play with players who are not as good as them. So it talks to both of them and really talk to the qualities of what makes a good player and where they are, and remember where they are before they became a good player, and vice versa for a player who's not so good. And if they want to actually play with good players, then there are certain etiquettes which I often suggest I suggest that on my blog, and it's been very popular.
Yeah, it really did. It crystallized so many things that you feel on both sides. You remember when you were just starting out, and you think, "Oh, I wish that I had had this to read then." And but then as you've advanced and you get a little better, then you think, "Oh, I'm glad I'm reading this now because I might be guilty of this." One or two things here. One of the things, and the thing that really struck me right off the bat, if you ask a stronger player to join a game with you, and then you put it in all caps here, hit to them.
Absolutely.
That's something when I was starting out, I could not believe when I would be on a team and it was like, oh, finally I'm going to play against this person. And then my teammate would come over to me, and right before we're going to play, he whispers, "No matter what you do, don't hit to Jim." And it's like, no, I've been waiting. I've been waiting all day to play against Jim, and now my partner's telling me no matter what I do, don't hit to him. And I thought, that's just exactly the wrong advice. We're not playing in the Nationals here. We're not, there's no medals on the line here, which I know, that would be the strategy if it counted for something. But right now, I'm just trying to get better. Yeah, that's something. Mark, do you see that a lot in players? If a stronger player is on the court, do they try to avoid them at all costs?
I'm not sure about all costs, but it's pretty clear when they're trying to avoid a stronger player. Now, the other side of that coin is that one of the things that makes a stronger player stronger is that they seem to find ways to get the ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether that's sort of intercepting a ball floating over the middle or taking those balls that are returned down the center. So I don't worry too much about the better players in those situations, but I think Prem's point is good. Is like if you're inviting someone to come and join you, it's kind of like inviting someone to a dinner party and ignoring them all night, right?
Yeah.
Like if you want them to continue to play with you, you've got to do something to at least make it interesting for them.
Well, and that was always my reasoning too. It's like, well, okay, let's say we played every game like that, where, we played the don't hit to Jim strategy. What's Jim going to do eventually? At the end of the day, he's not even going to have broken a sweat, and he's going to think, well, that wasn't a very good workout. I'm going to go find some other place to play. And then you're left, with just a bunch of mediocre players. Is that what you want to be? You want to be the best of the worst players here? It's like, no, I want to hit to him because I want to learn from him. I want him to expose my weaknesses. And I also want to make sure that, he's having a good time and that, he brings his friends, who are just as good and that this is a good competitive place to play.
Yeah, it is an issue. And, especially in situations like where we are, our local YMCA has 2 courts, right? And when we get there, in theory, it's supposed to break down to the newer players play on one side and the more experienced on the other side, but that doesn't always match up with skill level, right? We all know those people who've been playing for quite a while and have just sort of plateaued, and we might call them a high novice, but they've been playing for 10 years. And then there are those other people who, are brand new on the scene, and maybe they've come over from another sport, they're quite athletic, they're quite agile, and even though they're a new player, they're quite skilled. And so I think that Prem's word for this of navigating how to sort of deal with players at different levels, players at different experiences, people's feelings come into play here. It is pretty treacherous water.
Absolutely. And I remember when I was actually inspired to write this article a few years ago, it came out actually from a couple who had actually been snowbirding from Canada, and they were very enthused, and they really wanted to play against good players, and they would put themselves on the sign-up sheet, and then would be so frustrated that the good players would not want to play with them and that is when I often explained, and as I explained on the blog, is like if you see 4 good 5-0 players or any good skill level players playing together against each other, it would be not the ideal time to go and compete against them at that point, and let them have their little fun when they are having it, because it really brings down a game a notch down if a weaker player gets into that mix. And it would be, as a courtesy, you can always, check in with them, be respectful of the fact that good players are playing, and let them play. And then you can check in with them probably at the beginning of their warm-up and say, would they be willing to play with them? Or probably tell them, like, before you go, I would like to play a game with you guys, and maybe they would be willing to do that. Mm-hmm. But rather than when they are in the heat of the battle, and to try and sneak in a game because you just want to play against them, would not be a very helpful situation for a weaker player. But on the other side, I also say that to the bigger players, that don't forget where you started. When you came into this game, there was someone who took you under the wing and who also helped get you to know the game a little bit more and the rules and help you out there. So we also be nice when someone's asking you, go and play. Maybe you want to go and play in the early part of the day when you're warming up. Go and play with the players, so-called weaker players, and get yourself. And you can work on certain number of things without having to play all out against weaker players. Just be gracious about it. Go in and play, and it's like pay it forward. Be helpful to your local players, because then it more better players you're able to create, better competition you have overall, and you're raising the level of play overall in the group of community of players where you are. So it's an ideal balance to navigate, and it's always not easy, but it's giving the balance of understanding between the 2 groups of players generally we encounter in a group.
I think those are really good points, and I think if I was to give tips, to people out there who they feel like they're on the cusp, or they feel like they want to try to jump up to that next court and play with those people, there's people who stand out as being really keen, right? Like if you imagine you take two, let's say, high novice players, and there's the one high novice player who every time her match is done, she just sits on the chair and she chats with her friend, or she's on her phone and she waits her turn, and then, then gets up to play again. And there's the other high novice player who, when she's done her match, she gets off and she sits there and she watches. And she studies the other players playing, and she asks questions to the people beside her. And, she shows up early and she's hitting against the wall by herself, or she's staying later, or she, as a more advanced player, that's the kind of person that I would be far more likely to invite in to join a game, even if, yes, it drops down the level a little bit, because that person has sort of shown that they're willing to do the work, that they're enthusiastic, that they're keen, rather than the other one who, just wants to play a better game because, well, that's what we all want. That would be my advice to players who want to scratch that next level up is show your enthusiasm. And showing your enthusiasm isn't always trying to jump into a game, but it's being present, it's asking questions, it's being enthusiastic, and I think people will notice that.
That's a great point, Mark. That really is. And that's something that I was talking a few weeks ago. We did an episode with Denise Donald up in New Jersey and Mickey Collins over in Kansas City, both ambassadors. And we were just talking about people that tend to just show up week after week after week and can be the nicest people in the world, but they just seem to demonstrate zero desire to want to get any better. And it's not to sound like a pickleball snob or anything, but to me, I feel like, well, I don't really want to spend a lot of time with them or helping them or show them things. I mean, well, number one, they don't really ask for any help or advice, and number two, it just feels like there's no point to it because they have no curiosity as to why they're losing all the time. To put it bluntly,
but I'll be very clear on that one. That's one of the biggest thumb rule I have in my coaching career till date is I only teach people who are willing to learn. I'm not teaching people who don't want to. There's no way someone will say, oh, the pickleball guru is on the court, let's go and learn something from him. People who are willing to ask questions, I'm happily giving them information. It goes back to what you said. I'm not trying to teach people who don't want to learn. I'm only teaching people who are willing to learn. And so, I respect people who don't want to, and I respect the fact that they just want to have fun playing what they want to do, and they're not willing to do more than that. That's okay, and that's perfectly fine. I'm only a teacher to the people who are wanting to listen.
Yeah, well said. We're talking with Prem Carnot from smartpickleball.com and thepickleballguru.com and Mark Renneson from thirdshotsports.com. So what are your thoughts about what we discussed today? We'd love to hear from you. Email us anytime. mail@pickleballshow.com. That's mail@pickleballshow.com. That's where you can find us on the internet too, pickleballshow.com. We're on Facebook as well, facebook.com/pickleballshow, twitter.com/wait for it, pickleballshow. We make it easy for you. And we'd love to hear from you anytime on any of those places. Also, head over to iTunes if you get a chance. Hit the subscribe button, which means you'll never miss an episode. Plus, if you feel it's appropriate, leave us a 5-star review, which helps boost us up in the rankings, makes it a lot easier for other pickleball players to find this show. I'm Chris Allen. This is The Pickleball Show, and until next week, keep 'em low. The Pickleball Show is brought to you by PBX Club. PBX stands for Pickleball Excellence. Join today and get the latest pickleball tips and strategies, news and opinion. Save money on paddles and other equipment with coupon codes to online pickleball retailers. Get travel discounts to tournaments and a whole lot more. How much does it cost to become a PBX Club member? Well, it's free. Just go to freepbxclub.com. That's freepbxclub.com. There's even a link in the show notes for this episode. freepbxclub.com. PBX Pickleball Excellence. Join the club. It's free.